Welcome learners. Today we are going to speak about budgeting and marketing planning for events. This is again another session on event management, and let us see what we're going to cover in this session. This session will deal with budgeting for events, under which we will try and talk about importance of budgeting, budget construction, steps in budgeting, how to reduce the costs while budgeting for an event, and the return on investment. We're also going to talk about marketing planning for events. Through this, we're going to focus on communicating objectives for event marketing. We're going to talk about event management as a marketing tool. We're also going to talk about event management research and the various research approaches while we research for events. So, let us begin with the importance of budgeting. Whenever some expenditure has to be occurred, it is important that we plan or estimate the kind of costs that event or that budget will incur. It helps in understanding the financial implications of organizing an event. So this is the importance of budgeting. Any budget for any event is the backbone of it. There are two aspects of this. One is income, the money that we spend, and one is the expenditure. Expenditure is the money spent, while income is the incoming flow of funds. Optimum utilization of resources to minimize expenditure and maximize income is important when we talk about budgeting. Now let us look at budget construction. When we construct the budget for any event, be it a formal or an informal event, be it a small scale or a large scale event, there are certain considerations that are most important. Like, it depends on the scale of the event. How many people do you think are expected? If it is an informal small scale event like a birthday party or a get together, then the number of people who will be attending it will be far less as compared to a trade show or a book fair or the World Trade Fair, so on and so forth. So it depends on the scale of the event as to what kind of budget you consider. Then primarily it involves the preparation and presentation of financial accounting. Financial accounting comes into picture because when you're preparing the estimated budget, you're trying to calculate what is the cost which will be incurred, in which all heads will the cost be incurred, and what is the output or what is the extra fund that we are looking at. So it involves the preparation and presentation of financial accounting on a large scale. Budget planning should keep the overall objectives of the event in mind. What is the objective of your event? Is it to get greater footfalls? Is it to make the people aware? Is it that you want people to purchase certain kind of products? Is it that you want them to change their habits or the way they function in a certain aspect? So it will have to keep the objectives of the event in mind. Why? Because the objectives of the event will decide what kind of an event it will be. And based on that, we will decide upon the budget for that event. Then the budget also enforces the discipline to plan and execute. When you know you have an amount X which can be spent on publicity and an amount Y which can be spent on stage setup, you will not try to exceed that amount because you know these are the limitations within which you have to operate. So it enforces a certain kind of discipline which helps you in planning and execution of the event. Now let us look at steps in budgeting. More than steps, I am going to give you examples of how income is different from expenditure, or what kind of income can incur different kind of expenditure costs. So the first step is to identify the areas of expenditure and income. Let us look at these areas. One could be sponsorships. When an event is being sponsored, say for example, you're going to organize a health show or a health mela. So who are the people who are sponsoring these events? It can be associations, it can be companies, it can be federations or trusts. And these companies or organizations who are funding it, who are sponsoring it, basically are the organizations who either have some kind of business setup or business verticals which deal with the health sector, or it is a part of their corporate social responsibility that they have dedicated a certain amount of money towards health melas or health related issues and awareness, so on and so forth. Now such companies which are already into the business sectors in which the event is going to operate, say for in this case it is health mela, it could be a pharmaceutical company, it could be an Ayurvedic company, it could be hospitals of various kinds, it could be insurance policies, the health insurance policies. So there is a plethora of business opportunity given in any sector. So the event which is being organized in a certain sector will keep that in mind. So those are the people who will be interested in sponsoring this event. Then what is the expenditure you're going to incur? It is broadly going to be the venue cost. So what kind of a space and what kind of place have you decided upon, whether it is reachable, well within reach, well reached by say metros and public transport, or whether it is far off from the city, it is in the outskirts. That will decide upon decide the venue cost for that event. Then we also have another head under the income, which is sales. Now sales, what are the various things required when we're talking about the sales pitching of an event? It is the ticketing. First and foremost, for any event you have tickets which people will buy and buy when they visit your health mela or any other event that you're organizing. So the first and the foremost is the ticketing. The second is food and beverages, because if you want people to stay there for say 3 to 4 hours and make their decisions and get exposed to certain kinds of communication or certain sections of health that you're exposing them to, then obviously towards that end you're going to have some food and beverage stalls over there. So the sales of tickets, food and beverage accounts to the income. And what is the expenditure? The expenditure will be the salaries that you would give away to the people. They could be the volunteers, they could be technicians, they could be employees, artists, laborers, so on and so forth. So when I say volunteers, there'll be people who would be excited to volunteer for health sector, and so they would become a part of this health mela. These could even be interns who right out of their marketing business schools and would like to take an opportunity into sales. They can also be the technicians, people who are looking at the technical aspects of an event, the light and sound, the mics, the various other electronic equipments that are in charge, etc. Then you have the employees, the people who are organizing this event, the employees who belong to that event management company. Or say for example, if it is largely being organized by say for example MTNL or BSNL, so it will be their employees who would be at hand. And then there would be artists, people who would design the setup, people who would give a look to the entire event. And of course the labor cost, people who would set it up, who would do the skilled part of things. So there will be salaries that will be incurred which would amount to the expenditure. Let us look at a few more income and expenditure examples when events are concerned. One could be registration fees. You register for an event, at times it is ticketing, at times it is only the registration fees. So say for example it is a conference. A professional conference usually most of the times has registration fees attached to it. The expenditure is the insurance, because you do have to buy an insurance when you're organizing such kind of events. Then another head of income can be donations. Say for example for cancer patients or for children who are autistic or for orphanages, for old age homes, various other means you do incur certain kind of donations which account to income. The expenditure would be the administration part, the office rent, the stationery, the telephone and other related internet services and other related expenditures. So also when we talk about income, it also comprehends grants. There are various kinds of grants that are given. Say for example, there are NGOs or there are non-profit making bodies who are working for certain causes, national as well as international. So they give grants to people who have certain projects at hand and would like to work in that sector. For this, the expenditure would be food, travel, accommodation. In order to complete the project, you would require these things because you're going to say, for example, collect data on how women with HIV who are HIV positive, how are they treated in society? So you will have to go on foot and you will have to speak to people, you will have to observe societies and communities of different kinds, be they northerners, be they southerners, be they the east, northeast, so on and so forth. So there will be various heads of expenditure, and these are the broad heads. Then again, when we talk about income, it would involve rent. When you are organizing an event, you rent out certain stalls to people who have related businesses. So say for example, I am producing something related to the health sector, some equipments which are required for, say for example, an X-ray machine or an ultrasound machine. So you give me an a stall in your event, the health show that you have created. I will have a few stalls to put up. So I will be giving my rent to you. So there will be stalls and other such items which would provide rent to the event organizer. In contrast to this, when we talk about the expenditure would be the equipment purchase, hire, like of course the sound and light, the tenting and the furniture, the chairs and tables that are required, the stage setup, the kiosks that are there. Kiosks could be for soft drinks also, and for it could be ATMs also, various things. Generators in case there is a power cut. Uniforms, because you like people who are servicing to be in uniforms, and it gives a certain a certain idea of who the organizers are. Then you also have other kinds of income like the individual contributions. So people who are philanthropic in nature would like to give away contributions as towards certain causes. And the expenditure that you would incur could be contingencies and other miscellaneous expenditure that can be involved in this. So another example of income could be fundraising. There are various fundraiser events. There are various events which are conducted only to raise money towards a noble cause, towards a social cause. And the expenditure that you would incur for this could be in terms of permissions. So you require permissions from the, say for example, the police or the local administration. You require a parking, firefighting facilities, you require the police related facilities, and maybe liquor at times. So those can be the various expenditures that are incurred in a fundraising event, which is for a noble cause. Then of course there can be publicity. When I say publicity, once you're organizing an event, there can be people who are who would like to publicize about their products and services, since they are in some way related. It can even be simply something as simple as serving cold drinks. A new brand of cold drink is out in the market, and because this event is being organized, you allow people to come and sell their cold drinks. So it becomes a source of publicity for them, which incurs some kind of an income for you. On the other hand, the expenditure related to this would be towards printing and artwork, towards print and radio and television ads, as well as the media kit preparation. So while you are publicizing about the event, you will have to incur these costs. So this will amount to your expenditure. Now these have been the various heads under which we have studied income and expenditure. Let us now look at how to reduce costs. See, like I've always stressed that events is all about common sense. So all these points that I'm going to discuss with you regarding how to reduce costs, you would see that it is coming commonsensically somehow. So the first thing is that the success of budget planning depends on cost reduction without compromising quality. So when I say reduce cost, it doesn't mean that you have to compromise on the quality, because if you do, the quality is basically what is going to speak about your product, about your organization to the end user, to the audience. And there, if you spoil your impression, probably the audiences would decide against using your idea, your product, or anything else that you're propagating through the event. So the success depends on lowering the cost, but not at the cost of the quality. The second thing is that one must include more volunteers than paid staff. A lot of young students who are, who are looking for internships, they're either out of the business and marketing schools or out of media schools, they're all there because they need some experience, some hands-on experience in the form of internships. Also, there are people who would like to volunteer for a cause. So say for example, you're trying to do a fundraiser for cancer patients, there would be people who would like to support the cause by means of volunteering. Everybody will not have that extra bit of money to donate, but they would like to volunteer. So make use of these volunteers more than the paid staff. And of course, utilize their skills to the fullest, because that will also save you further expenditure on those skills. Understand the exact requirement to avoid overhiring. Now you should know that a certain magnitude of event is being organized for a certain number of days, or say for example one day, which would amount to 8 hours or 10 hours. For that, what is the kind of staff strength that you're looking at? You should not be overhiring, because of course you will incur some expenditure towards their compensation, towards their salary. Avoid wastage on publicity. We all know that social media, new media, internet has brought in various platforms which has made it more customized and more inexpensive as compared to the mainstream media. So if you have to reach the right consumers, the right audiences for your event, reach them through the social media. Because despite the fact that mainstream media has a huge reach, a wide reach, but we do not know who all is the mainstream media reaching. So at one point of time, your TV ad is being observed by so many people, all of whom may not be interested in your event. As compared to that, if you have a list of some data of people, some Facebook list, whereby you know that these people are interested in health related causes, you would like to publicize to them and they would be interested in coming to your events. So avoid wastage on publicity, because a lot of money, a major chunk in fact, while you organize any event, goes into publicity. Then get program partners. When I say getting program partners, instead of paying people for food and beverages, you could probably associate with a beverage company and give them your event to publicize for their soft drink or beverage, and at the same time your function of providing a beverage in your event will be fulfilled. So similarly, you can also associate with a radio channel for radio ads. So while this event is helping them, and they are also helping you by airing your ads. So they get free publicity at the event and they can sell their product. Now let us look at return on investment. We have so far seen how to reduce costs, why budgeting is important. Now let us look at the output. Return on investment is basically the output that you're looking forward to gain by spending so much of time, energy, money, resources towards organizing this event. So if I have to give a formula for return on investment, I'd say it is the total revenue that you've earned divided by the total investment. So there are certain tips now. How do you raise your ROI? How do you raise your return on investment? There are a few things that one must keep in mind. Say for example, one must provide merchandising facilities at the venue. So the more the business that's taking place at the event, the better it gets. So do not just make it a display section. The entire event should not just be a display thing. Merchandising should also be facilitated at the venue. If you're an established player, offer franchising opportunities. Now this is a kind of business that is a B2B kind of a business to business kind of a transaction, whereby you are offering franchising opportunities if you're an established player. So say for example, I run a certain X chain of hotels. I should be able to, while I am in this event, I should be able to offer franchising opportunities to people. When I say franchising, it means that you have to meet certain conditions, certain requirements in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the capital that you have, the starting capital, and various other issues are involved in this. And if you meet these requirements, you can take my name, which is that of an established player. So you are taking the franchisee of an established player. It can be a coffee chain, a coffee house, it can be a hotel, it can be a hospital, anything for that matter, school, so on and so forth. So and if the last event was successful, one can also consider raising ticket prices for the next event. This is another small way of raising the return on investment. Say for example, you organized a health show and it really went off very well, and the feedback that you collected was very positive. So that what do? You ensure that the next time you're going to organize this health mela, you can raise the bar a little without hurting much. But then because it comes on a per head basis, the ticket cost is on a per head basis, it will allow you a chunk full of return on investment. Then let us now talk about the second section of this session, marketing planning for events. Marketing planning requires applications of principles of marketing. So it is not anything new, but you're just using the same principles commonsensically. It looks basically into one, knowing who your target audience is. What is their profile? By profile, I mean the demographic as well as psychographic profile. So while I'm looking at the income, education and exposure of these target audiences, I'm also looking at how they treat money and how forthcoming they would be if I offer them a better product on which you will have to spend a little more. That will be the psychographic study of the target audience. So that kind of profiling of target audience is important. Then of course the spending power. What is the purchasing power of your target audience? The price at which you're willing to attend an event. If time and again, repeatedly, you keep putting across the same message to your target audience, it is more likely that when they have to make a purchase decision, they might just go towards the product or service that you are offering, but for which they have to come and attend your event. Though of course there are other ways of publicity, but since we're talking about event management per se, how willing are they to spend, in order to attend that event? And then what are the other competing events? What are the themes that they're making use of? And what are the dates and whether they're clashing or not? And what kind of a media mix is being used? When I say competing events, yours could not be the only health show or a health mela which is being organized in the city. There can be other players, competing players, who could be organizing similar events. So if there are competing events, what are their themes? What are their dates? Are they clashing with yours? Because that would mean that the audience is getting divided. And then what is the media mix that you're using to reach that kind of an audience? Once you've profiled your target audience, it is important to understand what is the media habit, what is the media consumption pattern of your target audiences, and accordingly choose your media mix. Customize it, be selective, make sure that you use it in a manner that you don't spend a lot on it. So in totality, your media mix would be customized according to your target audiences. So this is the basic requirement while we are looking at the marketing planning for any event. Now, what are the various communication objectives for event marketing? We are looking at marketing planning. Through marketing, what are we doing? We are communicating. We are trying to persuade people to take certain kind of decisions. So what are those communication objectives that we are trying to bargain with our clientele? The very basic 5 W's and 1 H. Now what is that 5 W's and 1 H? Let us look at it. Number one, who will attend? So who are the various sections of people? Like there can be performers. Say for example, if you're organizing a conference, there would be scientists, people who are talking about the work that they've done, and then it will be followed sometime in the late evening by a cultural event, so there will be performers. These scientists who are presenting are the participants. There would be keynote speakers, people who are looked up at highly in the academia, who people would like to listen to. So they will be the keynote speakers. There would also be panelists, people who are doing upcoming good work in a certain section or a certain area of whatever you're focusing on, in this case health. So there will be a panel discussion talking about the latest and giving you some greater insights into the various aspects of health. Then there will be workshop organizers. So parallelly, while we are having sessions, we may also be having workshops. So there will be workshop organizers. And of course, for all these people, you require audiences. So there would be potential audiences who would be registering or purchasing tickets for such kind of an event and attending it. So these are the people who will attend, who will be there at any point of time during the event. Why would anyone attend it? What is the cost benefit analysis for me as an audience is something that I need to know. So how would it help me? What would I gain by attending an event of this kind? When is the event? The time to reach the target audience and choosing the media mix is now. Why? Because suppose your event is a month later. So you have 1 month's time to figure out what your media mix is, which means what are the various kinds of media that you're going to use in order to publicize your event and in order to ensure better footfall in your event. And at the same time, what is the best time to reach the target audience? If you start publicizing about this event, which is maybe a medium magnitude event, 6 months in advance, it might just slip off public memory. So ideally, the time when you're making a communication to the target audience must be right. And then make use of the correct kind of media mix. Choose the right, customize the media mix most appropriately. Then the location of the event is important. Where is it being organized? And the target audience should complement each other. Why? Because say for example, you're organizing something for college goers and then you're organizing it somewhere outside the city, towards the outskirts. Probably if it is not within reach by public transport, less college goers would come to your event. But on the contrary, if it is a property show, which you're organizing in the outskirts of any city, more number of people would be expected to turn up there. So what kind of location will depend on the kind of event. And the location will also be decided by the kind of target audience who you're looking at, who would come and participate in that event. Now this will also help in planning the marketing techniques. When you've decided that target audience are the college goers or target audience are the property buyers, obviously for both the sections of the people, the way you will reach out with your communication, marketing communication will be different. So marketing techniques for young adults, college going clientele will be much different than those who are out to purchase property. So people decide to attend based on where the event is taking place. So the location of the event is of high significance. Then what should people expect from the event? If I am going all the way onto the outskirts of the city to attend an event, certain kind of expectations obviously I'm carrying with me. So are those expectations being met? Why or why not? Or how can they be met? What will help the marketers position it rightly? So if property is being sold to me, there should be enough prospects in it. There should be enough, it should be an enough promising and enticing idea which should be able to push me to go and look at that property so many kilometers outside the city. Alternately, when it is, say for example, a play, how do you market it such that more number of youngsters come into it and they are convinced with the idea that we're trying to propagate? So how as a marketer are you positioning the event is of critical importance. Then how to go about it? What are the various methods that you make use of? Sometimes, presentation is more important than the message. The message can be the same old message which has been relayed to us in various forms, various times, and we may be aware of it. But the way it has been presented will change the entire mood, the degree of acceptance of the audience and everything else which is connected with it. So the methods of how you go about propagating an event or publicizing about it or communicating about it will make a huge difference. Now let us look at event management as a marketing tool. As a marketing tool, event management is more inexpensive as compared to mainstream media. We all understand that a few seconds of ad on television is going to cost lakhs of rupees as compared to organizing an event, whereby you can come directly in touch with the community, with the people, and there will be greater effectiveness of communication, because here we are talking about niche marketing. Also, the outcome is measurable and tangible. So at the end of it, you can conduct a small survey and a feedback study to figure out who came, what did they expect, were their expectations met, and were they happy? Will they like to, adopt a certain way of operation which is different from how they did it earlier? All those things. So that is measurable also, and it is tangible also. Also, more importantly, one will be able to spend some quality time with the target audiences, and there will be a greater chance of face-to-face interaction. At the same time, as a marketing tool, event management is a controlled activity. It will not go out of hand. Why? Because everything has been planned in a certain manner. You know what activities have been planned for the event and whether they are going well or not. So there is greater control in the hands of the organizer. Also, it is useful for small and medium enterprises who don't have large marketing budgets. And of course, commonsensically, it is very creative. It is the best way of propagating your ideas in a most effective manner and efficient manner. So that is how event management as a marketing tool is very important. Now let us look at the last bit of this session, which is event marketing research. When we're talking about research, ideally, why do we do event marketing research is because we want to plan more strategically, and we want to reduce the liabilities, the wastage, the extra expenditure, etc. So all these objectives can be met through research. Then we also find precise solutions to certain problems. We are able to understand the current trends of the audiences. What do they like? What do they not like? How do they appreciate things coming their way? All that. And then there are expectations of audiences and the market. There is a certain market that you're operating in, where you have competitions also, where you have people who are, various businesses who are supporting your kind of business as well. And at the same time, there are government policies with which you have to operate. So there are expectations of audiences as well. Now, what are those expectations of audiences, and whether they're being met is being tested only by the event research. Then, of course, segmentation of audiences is important. You've organized a certain event. Which segment of the population was it for? Was it for the influential class of the society? Was it for the elderlies? Was it for the young adults who do not know where to draw a line between, say, drinking, driving, voting, so on and so forth? So there can be various segmentation of audiences which are done on the basis of the kind of objectives that you're trying to meet. Then, of course, there has to be understanding of demand and supply. And there are budget requirements. We've spoken at length about budgeting and why it is required. So budget requirements are also tested by way of event marketing researches. And there are vendor profiles, people who are supplying to you, people who are your vendors, and the kind of profiles they have. That too becomes a part of the event management research. Other factors that come into event management research are assessing the competition. In my next session, I'll be talking about various kinds of analysis to assess competition. Finding prospective clients. Where from will you be able to dig out new clients, bring in more people who will be supporting your idea or using the product or the service that you've designed. And then from the, drawing information resources. Information resources for event marketing research would come from government documents. They would come from the white papers of companies, organizations. They would come from newspaper articles, historical data, event magazines and websites, and there can be various other secondary sources as well. Now, when I talk about research, how is actually this research done? It can be conducted at either pre-event stage or post-event stage. And when I talk about the approaches of research, how it is done, it can be either qualitative or quantitative. Now, as the word suggests, quantity means numbers. So quantitative research approaches, like say for example a survey or a content analysis, will focus on numerical data. How many people found this worthy? How many people found it short of meeting its objectives? Then it looks at percentages. What percentage of people turned out for the event? What percentage of people would agree to accept and use this product? what percentage of people thought that the USP of this product is better than the others, etc. And of course, like I said, the common methods of doing a quantitative research is by means of survey or content analysis. As opposed to this, when we talk about qualitative, it focuses on subjective data. It looks at patterns and themes rather than percentages. So what has been the pattern of audience? How have they been negotiating with media, engaging with the event as such? So that the findings from such a research cannot be generalized, but they are closer to reality. Why? Because you have targeted all those people who have attended your event. And the methods of conducting qualitative research are focused group discussions, whereby you call by say 8 to 10 people, sometimes up to 15 people, and together you create a group discussion kind of an environment where whatever is the objective of your event is being talked about. There is also observation study, also called ethnography, whereby either you engage with the audiences or you quietly disengage and just be a part of them quietly and observe what they do and how they do it. And then of course there are in-depth interviews which you may conduct with people, the participants of your event. So that is all for this session, and like I always say, event management is all about common sense. So commonsensically events. See you again in 5 minutes.